Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host, Eric Smith, but I'm thinking of changing my name to Star-Lord. That's neither here nor there. Today I want to talk about the great book, Frankenstorm, by Ray Garton, published by Pinnacle. Before I get to the book, I want to talk a little bit about the recent history of horror publishing, and you can find details about all this if you Google, because I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. But anyway, for years and years, Leisure Horror, which was part of Dorchester Publishing, was, in my opinion, the premier publisher of horror fiction. A lot of fantastic authors. They published a lot of great new authors, a lot of authors that had been around since the 80s horror boom and even before that. And these were workaday authors, I suppose, the term I could use. And that's not meant in a negative way at all. But this wasn't Stephen King or Dean Koontz or Clive Barker. These were people that I know some of the authors had to keep regular jobs. Again, I don't mean that as a negative, that writing's not a regular job, but the kind of job you and I have. Anyway, they had to keep those jobs just to just keep the lights on for the health insurance, that kind of thing. Some of Leisure's authors made a living just at writing. I know a few that had to pinch their pennies, though. It was tough. Not super familiar with all their authors. Maybe some of them were comfortable. I don't know. But anyway, I'm getting way off track, it seems. Leisure Horror, Dorchester, went bottoms up a few years ago. And so a lot of these authors, all of these authors basically, I think, lost their home for publication. A lot of them tried some self-publishing. Small press publishers were picking up their stuff, which is good. On the one hand, you can go to Amazon. Deadite Press publishes a number of old leisure authors. Sam Hain Publishing, you can go to Amazon or their own sites and pick up their books. I get a lot of stuff. I've mentioned Deadite Press before, and I think I've mentioned Sam Hain. I know I've reviewed at least one of their books. But I've never seen Sam Hain in a Barnes & Noble. I've never seen Deadite Press in a Barnes & Noble. So it's been online purchasing, which is kind of sad to me. I want to see that stuff out there on the shelves. This is all leading up to Pinnacle, who may be possibly picking up the ball. I found Frankenstorm on the shelf at Barnes & Noble. I was very excited to see Ray Garton back on bookshelves, because he was one of those leisure authors. I discovered so many wonderful authors through Leisure. I said they're workaday authors, and they're not like King and Koontz and Barker, but frankly, I think a lot of them should be. They should be as big as those authors. They should be household names. I don't know if it's... I don't know why they're not. But anyway, so Pinnacle published this Ray Garton book. I believe he's got another one coming out from Pinnacle. I just recently picked up another horror novel from Pinnacle. So hopefully they're going to pick up the ball and we'll start seeing more great authors on bookshelves, which I think is where they really need to be. I don't know, to pick up new readership. A lot of people might see this on the shelf and grab it, and then they get hooked and they go online and find more Ray Garton stuff. People who might not necessarily know the name or go looking for it online. I'm rambling about this, but it's all leading to how excited I was to see Ray Garton on the shelf. So Frankenstorm, the new Ray Garton book. I know it sounds kind of like a sci-fi made-for-TV movie, but believe me, it's not that kind of story. The Frankenstorm itself is a hurricane that hits the West Coast, and it's sort of the backdrop and catalyst for everything that goes on in this book. Garton is very good at developing characters, so there's a lot of character in here. A lot of stuff going on. Let me tell you, I guess, a little bit. And I don't remember the names, so I'm looking on the back of the book, because there's a lot of characters. Basically, this Frankenstorm is about to hit the West Coast, and all the action takes place in the town of Eureka and the outlying area. That's the town name I remember. He mentioned some others, but I don't remember what they are. So you've got, let's see, his name's here, Ivan Renner, who is a conspiracy theory blogger, and we kind of see what's going on with him. And then he knows this survivalist, Ollie Monk, is what it says on the back here, who is a very conservative character, but is very, I want to say, supportive of the homeless. He doesn't support homelessness, but he cares very much for homeless people because his father was homeless. Then we have, again, I have to look, Farrah McManus, who's a virologist working in a secret laboratory in this old abandoned hospital. And the laboratory is kidnapping and experimenting on homeless people, which is where Ollie Monk comes in. He's heard rumors. He wants to go and rescue the homeless people that are in this secret lab. Ivan Renner, the blogger and podcaster, knows what Ollie has planned. And while all this is going on, the storm is coming. We also have a single mother, don't recall her name, and it's not on the back of the book, so I can't just look, who is delivering a package. We assume it's drugs, because she desperately needs money for her sick son. So she's heading through the storm into a bad situation. We have this guy that owns a diner who lost a custody battle for his son, and his son is with the mom, who's living with a drug dealer, not the one that the single mom's going to visit. And this cop buddy of the diner owner says he's going to help him out, and that leads to a crazy situation. All this stuff is going on as the Frankenstorm is approaching. And at the secret lab, they're doing very, very bad experiments on these homeless people, and when the survivalists come in to break them out, and when the storm hits, all hell breaks loose. I think I've covered the main beats without giving anything really away. Excuse me. So anyway, that's basically what's going on. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of characters, big giant storm. And as with pretty much anything Ray has written, it's a well-written, exciting book. The characters have a lot of depth, a lot of backstory, a lot of believable motivation, and I think that's one of Ray's strengths. You come to care about the characters. You'll love some of them. You'll hate some of them. You'll be ambiguous about some of them because, like real people, they're flawed. They have their good parts, their bad parts, and so they're not really black and white. Like Farrah McManus, she's generally a good person. She's doing bad things, though, and she, like most people, tries to justify that. But that'll come to a head in the book. And there are a few of those wonderful people that you love to hate, and you can't wait to see them get what's coming to them. I'm not saying they are going to get what's coming to them, which is one of the things I love about some of my favorite horror writers, is that the people you want to see suffer don't always suffer. There's a book that I read some time ago. It's another Sam Hain book, where the two worst people in the book, the two just scummiest people, are the only people to survive. Which I love. I love that fact. That horror authors, I suppose other authors too, but since I probably read 75% horror, that's my main focus. Horror authors tend to do that, at least more so than other types of books that I've read. So anyway, you've got the great characterization that Ray, I think, is fantastic at. The storm sweeps through and becomes maybe a minor character on its own. But it's the humans, it's the what's going on at the secret lab, what's going on with the single mother who's delivering the package, what's going on with the father trying to get his son back. That's the heart of the story. Now, this was I believe originally released as a serial ebook, and then the full volume came out. And this actually includes a short story, which I thought was fantastic. It is called The Guy Down the Street. Again, had to check. Really nice short story. Little bonus for you. While I was reading this, I think it's kind of cinematic. I could see this as a really nice, if well-produced, TV miniseries. I believe it's in six parts. So right there, you've got 6 episodes. You just make each part an episode. I would do 7. Have the first episode sort of introduce everybody, set everything up, and then starting with episode 2, you go to part 1, and then finish that. And I think, again, not some sci-fi made-for-TV thing. If you had real good production values, high quality across the board with the actors and everything, I would love to see this as a nice 6 or 7 part miniseries. There's a little police car stuck in the water there. I don't know why I felt the need to point that out, but just caught my eye. So this is something I recommend. It's it's a horror novel. It's a disaster novel. It's really hard to categorize, I suppose. And it just says Pinnacle Fiction on the spine here. Sometimes they'll have a category, although that's not always accurate. There are definitely a lot of horrific elements when the storm hits and all hell breaks loose and things go bad at the secret lab, with the raid from the survivalists or the militia, whatever you want to call them. But it's definitely, just for the characters alone, Garton is worth reading, but the story is also fantastic. It is violent and gory. Not the goriest. He's not. I wouldn't call Ray one of the splatterpunk crowd. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I love a super gory story on occasion, as long as it's well written. But Ray's not one of those guys. He is part of that group I mentioned earlier from Leisure, who was part of the big 80s horror boom. And had that going on, and then was at Leisure. He's had a lot of stuff come out since the collapse of Leisure Dorchester, but it's all been pretty much online or self-published, I think. As always, please feel free to correct any information that I may have mangled. I know I was able to pick up a lot of his old stuff new on Amazon, because I think he self-published it. I must have gotten the rights back or whatever, I don't know. Don't know the details. But yeah, a lot of his old stuff, which is really good. And it's nice to be able to do that. I love to see an author have their whole catalog out there. Not just so that it's available for me to buy and read, but because that means they can make a little money, which is not necessarily what it's all about. I mean, if it's just about making money, they can get a crappy job like the rest of us. I mean, I think if you're putting your heart and soul into, I mean, this is real work, writing, and I don't think they do it just for the money. But I'm looking over here. The shelf back there is where I have my Ray Garton. Got a little section for the hardbacks and trade paperbacks, and then I got the paperbacks sitting up there because I do not have enough shelf space. Excuse me. Years ago, I don't remember if I mentioned this on one of my other reviews. I think I may have. There was a group of us that had a book club, a horror book club online, and one of the books we read was Ray's, and he joined us for our discussion, and was a really nice guy. And like I said, I'm glad to see him on the shelves. Again, I believe he's got another one coming out from Pinnacle. I believe that's what he said. So, wow. I got the fan turned off so it's not distracting the window, and I'm heating up here. It's getting hot. So maybe I should end this. Kind of wish it was raining. Maybe it would cool things down. So anyway, if you want to read something with great characters, something with a lot of action, some scares, some twists and turns, I recommend Frankenstorm. It's good stuff. I recommend picking up Ray Garton's other stuff. As I said, you can find it on Amazon. I was going to mention, he really does build the characters quite well. The only problem I could see turning this into a miniseries or something is I think you would have to have, if you want that character motivation that I mentioned, you really have to get to know the characters and their backstories, which can be difficult to do in a movie or a TV show with limited time, limited budget, and I think it would lead to a lot of expository dialogue, expositional dialogue, whatever the proper term is. Basically, you would need somebody explaining or telling their backstory or their motivations. Because without that motivation, without that knowing why these characters are doing what they're doing, a lot of their actions could seem a little crazy. Why would this single mother be driving through this horrible weather that's a hurricane about to hit the coast just to deliver a package for somebody that she knows casually? Does she really need money that desperately? Well, you need to know about her sick child and her situation and why she would do something like this. You need to know why the diner owner really feels he needs to get his son away from his ex-wife and the situation that his son is in. So it can be tough, I think, in a movie or TV show to convey that sort of thing, because again, you kind of have to have a character say it. So as opposed to suppository dialogue, which is when someone's talking out their butt, kind of like I'm doing now. But anyway, Fangoria says Ray Garton will scare you. It's one of the blurbs. It's got Stephen King and Dean Koontz blurbed on here. So there you go. And I already mentioned those guys. If it had a Clive Barker blurb, that'd be the trifecta. So hey, if you're not going to listen to me, listen to those guys. Anyway, Frankenstorm. I don't want to cover up his name. Fantastic read. Just one of those great paperbacks. Love sitting outside and just digging into this. And even the little bonus short story is worth it. It's a great little story. So there you have it. Frankenstorm by Ray Garton. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or corrections, please leave them in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. I don't think I say that every time, and I really should. I will put a link for this book in the description down below, and I think that covers everything. So, for the Low Budget Review Show, I'm Eric Smith, and read more books.